Meeting order. First item is roll call.
Alderman Arnold.
Here.
Alderman Bray.
Here.
Alderman Cleaver.
Here.
Alderman Knox.
Here.
Alderman Mills.
Here.
Alderman Skinner. There is a quorum.
Next item be invocation led by Pastor Shonda Myron from Faith United Methodist Church, followed by a pledge of allegiance from Alderman Arnold.
Gracious God, thank you for this evening together, for entrusting these leaders to serve the people of Green Valley. We ask your wisdom and guidance for each one as decisions are made for the benefit of this community. It is in you we look to in all things. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, next up is the approval of the agenda.
No changes, Mayor.
All right. Seeing no proclamations, we'll move on to public comment. We ask that anyone who wishes to address the board come forward to the podium and microphone. And please make sure you've signed in for the record. Anyone who wishes to address the board this evening? All right. Seeing none, move on to the consent agenda.
Move it. Approve the consent agenda.
Motion by Arnold to approve the consent agenda. Do I have a second?
Second.
Alderman Knox. Any discussion? All right, seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Seeing no previous business or new business, we'll move on to presentations. We have Dr. Brad Willey here tonight to discuss the school district ballot measure coming up.
Good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to be with you tonight. Each of you has a handout, just a little bit of information about our ballot measure that we have on the April 2nd ballot. Our school district is asking for an increase of 25 cents to the overall tax levy rate to improve pay for our teachers and staff. We probably will have a handful of other positions we will add. For example, we're really promoting that we want to add another school resource officer to help us out in our schools. We will probably also add a handful of special education paraprofessionals. And we have right now a waiting list of students who are not being served in our birth to age 3 Parents as Teachers program. And so we would like the opportunity to add an educator to that program as well. You probably, at the bottom of the flyer, you probably understand the difference between a levy and a bond, but we can talk about that a little bit more. But on the back, you have the actual ballot language on the right column. I want to draw your attention to the blue graphic in the bottom left, because voters, when they go to the polls on April 2nd, they will be voting to raise our operating levy by 65 cents. And it's that 65 cents that is going to get us the pay increases to help us reach the goal of being either at or near the bottom right now in pay for all of our job categories, teachers and our hourly employees, to get us, we're kind of targeting the middle of the pack in the metro. And so that calculation was the 65 cents. The district now is in a position where we could reduce our debt service levy by 40 cents, and that helps kind of helps offset 40 cents of the 65 cents for the taxpayers in our community. We used our bond counsel to really calculate for us what level of relief we could provide to come up with the 40 cents. We are in a position that we can continue to make good on our previous bond commitments. We shouldn't have any trouble with that moving forward. Probably the downside for the district of reducing our debt service levy by 40 cents would be a reduced bonding capacity for the next few years. But we've been assured that we would still have bonding capacity to make a significant bond issue in the next couple of years if we needed it. We are still a growing district overall, but the growth has slowed significantly. And so we think the timing is right for us to be able to not only become more competitive in our pay for our teachers and our staff within the metro, but to be able to do that in a way that internally and how we operate, we can offset a good share of that increase for our taxpayers. One of the things we're trying to correct for is reduced application pool for especially for our teaching positions that we've seen in the last 4 years. 4 years ago, we would still have difficulty filling a high school science or math position. But in the last 4 years, our applications for all other subject levels, including for middle school, elementary, and special education, they're all half of where they were just 4 years ago, and that's pretty concerning. When it comes to our hourly employees, our cooks, our drivers, our paras, we recognize that we're not just competing with other school districts for those folks. We're competing with anybody, any employer in the region, but we're still using a metro-wide comparison just so that we have a fair metric. So we'll have some classifications of employees that will get larger raises than others. But again, what's fair about that is that we all have the same target, and that is to be ranked in the middle of the pack. We will have, as a school district, probably never worked so hard to be average at anything. But our teachers understand that, we do not have the tax base as a bedroom community that the people who we are competing with for teachers have a much larger tax base. It would not be fair to our community for us to be number one in the metro for pay. That's not the makeup of our community. So our teachers understand that. We're losing pace from the competition in recent years. And so we want to take a little bit of a leap forward so that we can catch up a little bit at this time. But the impact, the financial impact for the household would be $119 a year on a home with a market value of $250,000. But that's my kind of lengthy elevator speech, but I definitely want to answer any questions that anyone on the board may have.
But for me, the 119, breaks it down to what actually is going to be my increase per se. But so based on Green Valley and our size of city to say Oak Grove, Odessa, other cities our size, where does our pay for our teachers
Sure.
range?
We compete pretty well looking to the east. We don't compete very well looking to the west and to the north and much to the south. So, I learned a new term in the last couple of years that we are an excerpt. So I've learned a lot about the suburbs, and the thing about our community from a school district standpoint is our families have kind of come to expect a level of service in education and extracurriculars like a big suburb, but we are not, and financially we're not like the big suburbs. But within the metro, we're still very similar in size to Platte County and Kearney, Smithville, and Excelsior Springs. And so even those schools, we're trying to be more competitive with.
So we're right in whatever, we're above average or whatever with the other cities our size, basically.
There aren't many cities our size within the metro. We're fairly competitive with the ones that are, but we're also competing with teachers for school districts that are much larger than us.
Yes, that was kind of where I was going. My next question, so basically how we look compared to Blue Springs, Lee Summit.
With the passage of this levy, with the passage of this levy on the front end, so the first half, say the first half of a teacher's career, we would compete reasonably well with Blue Springs. We will never compete with them at the tail end of a career. That's where they're going to pull away, and we're not going to have the resources to keep up. But that's a calculation. Our people understand that. But right now, where it stands is we have teachers that are over the hump in terms of the midpoint of their career, that they can go to a neighboring school district and they don't even have to move their family to change jobs, and they can make $13,000 to $15,000 more to do the exact same job. Well, this levy's not going to get them another $13,000 to $15,000, but we can close that gap somewhat to kind of affirm, hey, look, you stay with us and stay for all the other things that you love about working here in Grain Valley and having your children go through our schools here in Grain Valley. People who are here love it here. But all that goodwill doesn't necessarily pay the mortgage either, and all the other expenses of a family. So we're just trying to take a chunk out of moving in on the competition. But yeah, we're not going to compete with the big dogs, especially at the higher end of career. And that's never been a goal for us.
And I know we really are more competing with West than we are East now,
Yeah.
but what are we, 5A, right? Or 6?
Yeah, on the big sports.
Yeah.
And then like girls wrestling were 2.
Yeah.
So it depends on
Yeah.
what the sport is. New state champion, by the way.
And just to give a personal experience with this, my wife and I both teach in Blue Springs. When my daughter started school 9 years ago, she's in 8th grade now, Tasha actually looked at moving to Grand Valley from Blue Springs where she could be on the same academic schedule. At that time, 8 or 9 years ago, she would have taken over a $10,000 pay cut at that point. I think it's more, for either one of us right now, I think it would be over a $15,000 pay cut for us to come to Grand Valley.
One of the other things that that we're really proud of, we just think that we have built a history as being a good value. We have consistently had the lowest tax levy rate in Jackson County for several years, and even with the passage of this ballot measure, and you see the bar graph at the middle of on the back side, it has our overall tax levy rate history. In 2023, we lowered the overall levy by 43 cents. To offset the dramatic increases in assessed valuation. And even with the passage of this measure for 2024, we're still expected to be one of the lowest school district tax levy rates in Jackson County. Probably won't be the lowest, but we should be one of the 3 lowest rates in the county.
I'm going to put you on the spot here. You may not know. What is the student population, the percentage of student population that's actually not in the city limits? Because we talk about, size of the city, but I think we have a lot more people that are outside actual city limits than say what Blue Springs or Lee Summit has in the county. So, I think we're talking about a bigger group than.
Yeah, the vast majority of our population density is in the city limits of Green Valley. Even though we've got a dense little neighborhood in Oak Grove and another dense little neighborhood in Blue Springs, by the numbers, it pales compared to.
Some of them are like Jackson County residents though, right? And don't show up in the.
Yes.
Okay.
Matthews Elementary's boundary is a really good example. If you compare the 4 elementary schools' boundaries, you'd see that size-wise, Snyabar is the tiny little boundary. And that's because the student population is more densely populated around Snyabar and the neighborhoods around Snyabar. And Prairie Branch is a little bit that way. Prairie Branch is fairly dense between the chunk on the Blue Springs side and then most of what else is north of the interstate. But then if you look at Stony Point, on the south end of town, Stony Point has a lot of the rural and unincorporated Jackson County, and so the Stony Point attendance area is really large to get no more students than Snyabar has. And then Matthews on the north end has everything north of Pink Hill Road, I think everything east of Buckner-Tarsney. So it has a huge landmass, but there's just not a lot of students comparatively in those areas.
Anyone else have any questions?
I appreciate the opportunity to come and share this with you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, any additional presentations? No public hearings. We'll move on to resolutions. We have Resolution R24-15. It's a resolution by the Board of Aldermen of the City of Grand Valley authorizing the city administrator to execute task order 2023-5 with Crawford Murphy and Tilly Incorporated for design of intersection improvements at Eagles Parkway and Kirby Road, subject to all provisions included in the on-call professional engineering services agreements.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we accept Resolution R24-15.
Okay, got a motion from Alderman Bray to accept Resolution R24-15. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Alderman Arnold. Any discussion?
Mayor, members of the board, if you remember when we went through budget time for this calendar year, one of the transportation projects that we outlined that we wanted to do this year was the design work for that Eagles Parkway and Kirby Road intersection. Anybody that drives through there, you'd know over time that's kind of become a bit of a mess. You do have the schools to the south, you've got the fire station to the northwest of that, and then just traffic overall on Eagles Parkway and Kirby. at certain times of the day is pretty packed. And if you also remember, our plan all along has been to upgrade that road as well as install a trail system along there. So this would be the design work for the signalizing of that and how the turn lanes would work with those improvements. This was something we budgeted $180,000 for. The cost estimate on this task order was $159,980, so it actually did come in under budget, which is always a positive. And these are coming out of transportation fund dollars.
Any discussion or comments?
Do we have any, I know we're early in this, what that's gonna look like, that intersection?
Yeah, if we had any idea of what that's going to look like after it's done, and I think that's the part of this is to kind of keeping in mind what we think we want to have run through there, and then how that's actually going to work from a design perspective with the signals and.
Yeah, I think at the minimum is adding turning lanes that are needed at that intersection, as well as widening the intersection. Curb and gutter, it's just an open drainage system right now. And then in conjunction with the trail project, adding the trail being a sidewalk along that south property line.
And then are we working with the school district on any improvements they might need to make to their entrance?
Yeah, we're always in communication with the school district. Now, part of the agreement would be for conversations with the school district by the consultant.
Yeah, and so this is kind of the first step. Well, it's been planned for a long time in our CIP. It was a wish list project for a number of years, and now we've kind of moved forward to actually trying to get a design put together to go after grant funding. But until we go through the actual design side of it, we really don't know what's there or what we'll need for sure. But if you remember even putting the sidewalk kind of in front of the high school there, it has its challenges because it was all open ditch to start with. It's basically still, most of that road for that section was still kind of the county road. And it was Old 40 versus an actual city standard road that we all actually need at this point.
But no 2,000 students trying to get through a traffic circle or anything like that, because that would be spooky.
Risking life and limb there. But that is not currently in the plans.
Any other questions or discussion? All right. Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Seeing no additional resolutions, move on to ordinances.
This is the second read of Bill number B24-03. This is an ordinance of the Board of Aldermen of the City of Green Valley, Missouri, amending sections 110.050 and 110.060 of the municipal code.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve Bill B 24-03 and approve it as ordinance 2444.
I have a motion by Alderman Knox to approve Bill B 24-03 for its second reading, making ordinance 2444. Do I have a second?
Second.
Alderman Mills. Any discussion?
Yes. In reviewing this more, I noticed under C on this particular language that we were establishing a practice of canceling all alderman meetings that fall on observed holidays, where we've always taken action as the board in those instances to make sure whether we do or don't need to deal. And most times we do move off of the major holidays. I don't know how many particular Mondays this is going to affect in the coming year. I feel that any time a meeting is going to be canceled, basically the same way it's covered down in E, that the board may motion to dispense of any regular meeting, but must have at least one meeting a month. It kind of conflicts there that we're carte blanche just canceling meetings that fall on holidays, which we would have to take action to have that meeting if a need did so arise. And it could catch future boards off guard on assuming that everybody knows the practice there. And so without knowing exactly how much this will affect our Monday meetings, I'd like to table this. I make a motion to table it till staff could get us some answers on the number of Mondays that this would affect. And so we could discuss it just a little bit more.
Okay, I got a motion on the floor from Alderman Arnold to table Bill B 24-03. Do I have a second?
Second.
Alderman Knox, any discussion on the motion to table?
Well, I guess, so you're saying is we have 2 holidays Monday in a month that we're gonna cancel. That's what you're concerned about?
I don't know if that would occur or because of the fall of things. I know that there are a number of holidays that fall on Saturday or Sunday and staff absorbs it either on Friday or Monday. I don't know how many of those would affect meetings that we normally have had, and we've had meetings on holidays that were not the larger holidays like Labor Day or Christmas and so forth. So it adds some confusion there. I feel if we feel there's a need to cancel on holidays on Mondays like that, we could look at the schedule at the first of the year and chart out those particular holidays if they're going to be an issue and cancel them by board action. And that's probably the thing that's I think more an issue here, that we as a board should be responsible in any meetings that we cancel instead of just a standard, they're automatically canceled if they fall on a holiday.
Because mainly the board meeting is more about business that needs to be attended, right? That, that the board needs to go over,
Yeah, I mean, that,
like ordinances or things, and I know we've had in the past, we got a holiday later in the month, so, we put it on that Monday's agenda or we move it to the next meeting's agenda, right?
yeah, the intent with this, I guess, was just trying to make it, to actually outline it. The one meeting a month, that was something that was in there before. That was a requirement that you'd have to hold at least one meeting a month, so that didn't change. The other side of it was, and maybe we did a long time ago, I don't know, but I don't remember ever having a board meeting on a holiday if it was something that was observed by the city. But the idea was, obviously, we're not going to have a meeting if it's on that holiday. And if there's a need for a meeting or to be rescheduled, then at a board meeting prior to that,
But we
the board
have,
would make that action.
but by rule or whatever, we have one meeting a month regardless.
Yeah, per ordinance,
Yes.
you're required to have one, yes.
So regardless.
And that's not a
If we had a
change.
couple Mondays or whatever, we would make, we would have to have a meeting, correct?
Yeah, by ordinance, you'd have to have one.
Yeah, so
meeting.
either whether it be on a Tuesday or a Wednesday or a Thursday, we would have to have that meeting for the month, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I'd personally like to see the being automatically removed, being automatically canceled, removed, to where if that's gonna happen, the board takes action so that we actually say, hey, we're not gonna have a meeting next meeting, rather than just go away, we actually have a voice in it. It's really not the way I wanted to say that, but we have an action to it, I guess is what I'm looking to say.
Well, that's kind of what I was meaning. Regardless, we're gonna have that meeting for the month. Because it's part of the ordinance, we have to have one meeting a month.
True, but if we're gonna cancel a meeting, I think we ought to take action on it. I just don't like the automatic, thanks, that meeting's gone. That's just me personally,
Generally. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, this is the board's meeting procedure, so it is up to you. If you're not comfortable with that, I mean, that's something that can go away. This is our attempt to, if you remember when this started, we were directed to kind of look at the time change, and then we did that, and it was our attempt to just update the board procedures that were in code. But I mean, essentially, these are business meetings, as Alderman Cleaver stated, and it is up to the board to determine how the meetings will be held, kind of the rules for that. So, I mean, it's not a staff thing on that. It's whatever the board would feel comfortable with.
So we can make a motion to modify that portion right now to where,
I think, Joe,
So
After the table, though.
Procedurally, Mayor, if
We
I
have a motion
could,
to
so
table.
procedurally, Alderman Mills' question, the answer is you have a motion and a second pending, so that would have to be voted first. That motion is technically, it is a motion to postpone to the next meeting, not a motion to table, because table moves something from one part of the meeting to another part of the meeting. Postpone moves it to another meeting. Okay. what I will tell you is we work with a lot of cities, and a lot of cities do these differently, right? And I can understand that if there's a question about subsection C, where it says the regular meeting shall be canceled, you know, that could say is, you know, if Labor Day falls on a Monday, which it always does, that Monday meeting is canceled. That makes sense. We're not scheduling that. You know, the question would, I think really where the confusion of the question may be is, do you intend then to hold that canceled meeting at another point during that week? Are you saying that that second or first meeting of the month is completely canceled and we move on? Some cities that I work with, and maybe, you know, a way to not get entirely tied down would be to say that the meeting, you know, the date, you know, the Monday that the meeting would have been held on, that meeting is canceled, but the board shall meet the meeting before to determine what date, you know, later in the week to do it. You know, sometimes it's a Tuesday, sometimes it's a Thursday, whatever makes the most sense. And sometimes it might be to say, we don't need one, we don't have enough going on at that point, we can let that one go. So that's an option. If that is something that the board would like to see, then I guess the recommendation would be to vote on the motion to postpone to the next meeting. We can make the amendment as staff and bring it back, changed from that standpoint.
If we vote down that motion, can that be altered tonight? Just had that. have
You
that,
can direct staff to
Then make
amend it,
another
yeah.
motion to. Basically, we're doing what you just said now, Joe. That's the way we do it now. We say, hey, we're not gonna have a meeting next Monday, you know. We don't need one, we'll just cancel it. So I mean, that's kind of the way we've been operating. I just don't like the automatic part. I don't know.
And I wouldn't want to rush to it, trying to make all this without having a little time for everybody to think about it and make sure staff has a clear understanding of what the board's wanting. So postponing it would probably be more effective to get it done and hopefully done more correct in a way that the majority of the board would like to see it.
Questions?
Additional discussion? Okay, this will be on the motion to postpone then, probably we'll call it.
Okay. Alderman Bray,
Yes.
Alderman Arnold,
Yes.
Alderman Cleaver,
Yes.
Alderman Knox,
Yes.
Alderman Mills.
Yes.
Okay, bill is postponed to the next meeting. So staff, do you have what you need for that, or? You got it?
I know how to write it, so
Okay.
you know, I can get with you guys.
Good, all right.
The next is the first reading of Bill number B24-04. This is an ordinance of the City of Green Valley amending Chapter 342 of the Green Valley Municipal Code, alcohol-related traffic offenses, to include regulations for operating motor vehicles without an ignition interlock device.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we accept the first reading of Bill number B2404 and bring it back for second reading by title only at our next regular session.
I have a motion of Alderman Mills to approve Bill B24-04 for its first reading, bring it back by title only for its second reading. Do I have a second?
Second.
Oh, everybody.
All three of them.
All right, any discussion?
Mayor, members of the board, I'm going to turn it over to Chief Turner to go over this ordinance.
Thank you. Mayor, members of the board, we know that there's over 10,000 alcohol-related fatalities in the United States. A third of those are preventable due to DWIs. We know in Missouri there's 240 approximately average fatalities every year. 26% of those are DWI related. So we know that we can prevent some of these by repeat offenders. This device on the cars allows there to be accountability. It's about 98% effective, and we know that our neighboring agencies participate in this practice. It's recognized by the state through state statutes. We're just updating our code so that we can mirror those things and hold those accountable. I can tell you by firsthand account, as late as less than 2 weeks ago, we had an occasion where we were unable to charge someone in violation of this. So we look forward to using it to keep the streets safe and respond to the needs of the community.
Wouldn't this fall under, I'm in favor of this, but wouldn't this fall under if they're not in the vehicle with their device, that they basically are driving with a suspended license because the only reason they can use their license is with that device in that vehicle?
I don't know if I'm,
They
I'm
can be
not,
ticketed for suspended license operation.
I'm not sure if I'm following you. The device would be used if they're operating a vehicle and they're in the driver's seat. Before that vehicle would start, they would have to submit a sample of their breath to assure.
I think he's
think
asking if
what-
they have like a second, if they own like a second car, that
Oh,
they
yeah,
don't have
it's-
the device on.
I'm sorry, yeah. So, yeah, it would be required to be basically they're registered and they have to sign up with a company that they pay for to track that.
Yeah, I think Alderman Arnold was asking in the case that someone
Driving
didn't do
a
that
truck.
and went and drove a car that didn't have one, what would be the?
Because then my understanding that they would be driving under a suspended license because they only have an operation license with that device. So if they don't have that device, they would be operating under a suspended license. Then they could be ticketed for driving with a suspended license.
I'm not sure I could investigate that. I don't know how to approach that, so I could look into it if it's something you have a question on, follow up.
Okay. But it just seems like that's out there as an opportunity if, you know, with that, even without this, but.
Well, they, in a sense, it'd be like a hardship license. Someone has a violation, but there's a need for them to be able to drive. They get some type of agreement that they can do certain things. This is, the best I can tell you, similar to that, where you're giving this an option for a person to feed their family or do things they need to do to accomplish those tasks. But there's stricter guidelines, and this is an instrument that the state and municipalities use to regulate that.
So on this, so I'm assuming that when an officer pulls a car over, it shows when they've run the license that they're supposed to have an ignition lock? Is that how they know?
No, I don't know if it's registered by their DOR entry, but whenever you would contact the person, you would be able to identify that. So again, I don't know if DOR is tracking that based on their vehicle, but it could be.
Does have any questions?
How's the officer gonna know to utilize this if they don't know that the individual is supposed to have it?
So if they're using someone else if they're driving a car and they let somebody else blow into it, if they're driving another car and they've been identified as having this restriction on their driving, and they're driving a car that doesn't have it, then they're gonna be held accountable. They have to use the car that's this device has been assigned to for them to operate on the state roadway or a municipal roadway.
It'll show up on their driver's license itself as an endorsement.
So when you run them, it comes back.
Yeah, I don't know I don't know if the plate on the car would register.
The driver's license.
The driver's license would, yeah.
So would this apply to someone who's providing instruction, like to a permitted driver also? Or,
If it's a permitted driver,
yeah, like your child's got a driver's permit and you're sitting in the passenger seat. What's the legality there?
so I guess I'm sorry, not following. So if your passenger's a child and they're driving.
The passenger, you're the passenger with the DUI that's supposed to have the
Oh,
interlock.
yeah.
And you're instructing your child, who's a permitted driver.
It-
Do you
they're-
technically have a driver's license at that
They
point?
still have a license, they just can't operate. They're under restriction.
Okay, so that's not considered operating
No,
though? Okay.
no, I wouldn't think so. Good questions.
Okay, we'll throw another one at you here. So typically, I'm assuming that they would get pulled over for speeding or something else. That's how the officer would realize they're supposed to have the device. What if one of our officers knows from experience that an individual is supposed to have a device? They see him driving down Main Street, like, oh, I know that person. That's not their car. They're supposed to have a device. Are they able to pull them over for that reason, or they have to have it in their violation? I'm just trying. I mean,
I would tend to think you'd be looking for probable cause to stop the car. I don't know if that is deemed probable cause for an initial stop. Again, normally you're gonna you would be following up on a violation in relation to to determine if there was a secondary offense.
Any additional questions? All right, see none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. That's it for ordinances. Next up, city attorney's reports.
No report this evening, Mayor.
Next up, city administrator and staff reports.
We're going to start with Mr. Davies.
Mayor and board, you all may have noticed some construction in Armstrong Park this past week. Actually, a week ago today, we started construction of the new all-inclusive playground here in Armstrong Park. It replaces our 2 to 5-year-old playground, and we've left our 5 to 12-year-old playground in place while this one's in construction, and then eventually that one will be removed as well. But this new playground will have play components, both 2 to 5-year-olds as well as 5 to 12-year-olds, but it has at least 50% play components. That's for children of all abilities. So we're pretty excited about this project. This is a project that's been long overdue. Alderman Bray was involved with this project on the park board. And I even think Dr. Welly, when he was on the park board, was involved with it, well, too. We've had some delays with the grant that we acquired and a few other things, but the project has started. And just to try to give you all a bit of a timeline, so right now they're putting in the play components, so they're in essence digging the holes and pouring the footings, getting the posts up, and then attaching the components. The next step will be putting in the drainage system underneath the playground, followed by the concrete border that will go around the playground. And again, the concrete is, this time of year, sometimes tough with weather, temperature, moisture. And then after the concrete is cured out, then the poured in place surface material will be poured into the concrete border, which will be the play surfacing for the new playground. And that too is weather dependent. And then once that is completed, then in essence, the playground is done. We're hoping by the end of March, first part of April, that the playground will be completed. It will be in memory of an individual that worked for us for over 10 years, also worked for the Grain Valley School District for almost a decade, Christina Kiki Claffin, who passed away unexpectedly back in February of 2020. So this playground will be named Kiki's Playground in her memory, and we will have a grand opening, ribbon cutting, and as soon as we have that date and time set, we'll make sure we get that information out to everyone.
All right, the only other thing we had Saturday night, did attend the Chamber of Commerce Heart of Grain Valley Awards, and one of the award recipients for or from that night with the Unsung Hero Award was our very own Teresa Ozenbaugh. So congratulations to her. But it turned out to be a pretty good event. It was kind of their attempt to bring back some of the past awards, kind of pillar of the community type thing. So yeah, it was what should be the first annual event, but it was a good time. And that is all of these staff reports.
All right. Next up is Board of Aldermen reports and comments. Alderman Arnold.
Nothing at this time.
Okay. Alderman Mills.
Nothing at this time.
Alderman Bray.
The only thing I got is there were certain complaints on Facebook about, I know we've been talking a lot recently about construction companies causing messes. I don't want to pile on, but apparently there's been a lot of debris blowing over from the new police station into Butterfly. So maybe I don't know if that would be part for the city having the construction crew pick up every once in a while.
Yeah, and it probably a combination. I know at least once, if not twice a year, our parks guys go out in the little boats and pick up everything that seems to blow across there. But one of the areas that was of concern there is actually an area that's supposed to catch things before it gets to the ponds.
I think that was
And it's not completely built. That will be something that's added to this spring before it's open. But yeah, I mean, it is something that we try to hold them to.
That's all I got.
Okay. Okay. Alderman Knox.
I have nothing tonight.
All right. Alderman Cleaver.
Nothing to note.
All right. Next up, mayor's report. The only thing I have is, along with that same talking about Butterfly Trail is, I guess I mean, I realized people fished out there, but I didn't realize as many people fished out there than what probably does, it seems like. And can you kind of talk to us about this stocking out there? Because I know we do some stuff with stocking it and how we keep it
Yeah.
full of fish.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Butterfly Trail, the retention pond there does get quite a bit of activity with fishing. So we do actually stock that body of water once a year and have at least once a year ever since it was built. We generally stock it late April, early May, and it's in conjunction with an annual fishing derby that the Blue Springs Elks Lodge does out at Butterfly Trail. So usually that's the first or second week or Saturday in May. So late April, early May, we stock it, and we will bring in sunfish, bluegill, crappie, and then some largemouth bass. And that is annually. Every now and then we'll have a second stocking in the year, but that's generally just grass carp. Because with the how shallow that body of water is, we get quite a bit of vegetation that we're fighting every year. That's on the surface of the water, so we will stock that with grass carp to try to help with that.
To add to that, just an idea, the Conservation Department every year in the winter puts in trout in a number of ponds around the state. Maybe we could contact them to see if they would be interested in putting trout in this lake for those people so inclined to want to fish for trout. You know, they won't live past a certain point because the water will get too warm here, but you know, it'd be another advantage for people that we could, if the Conservation Department was so inclined to work with us on that, that'd be very, very interesting for the anglers in our community.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just something to put on your plate.
Yeah.
Are there limits there, or does that not apply since it's?
Yeah, that body of water, basically, it's Missouri State fishing rules and regulations there.
I don't know if I've ever seen anything posted on.
And currently, we don't have anything posted. As far as creel limits, fish length, or anything like that. But that's something, I mean, we can look into as well, too.
That's all I have. I do not believe we have a need for an executive session. Unless someone has anything else. We'll adjourn.